Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and this is going to be a little bit different for us right now, but this is Trailer Friday.
Trailer Friday.
Trailer Friday. And so as it's a little bit different, because what we found in our workflow is that Friday on that release is going to be much better for us to be able to tell you how excited we are about the full episode that's coming up on, as it will be released on Sunday. And this Sunday happens to also be Mother's Day, so you can gather your mothers and sit them around the TV and watch the release of the new Cut Daisies and Unicorns episode. So this week it's really exciting because we have a unicorn on. And a unicorn on that we have mentioned his name. We mentioned it in the first season. And it's one of those that when we talk about unicorns, that there's the unique nature of who we're going to be talking to. And everybody has some unique nature. But we're going to be talking to Cam Schneider. And Steve's got a great connection with Cam, and even I learned family connection, not just with Cam, but Cam, knows his parents and all that good stuff. And so it's a great interview. We talk about, again, wide variety of things. And so it's going to be one that you're going to want to pay attention to, because we're going to, dive and weave into and out of, different subjects. And it's good information and good things that you're going to want to pay attention to. Steve, what do you think?
Well, I think it's time for us to take the deep dive. And this is Trailer Friday.
Trailer Friday. Oh, it's magic.
So much magic in the air. Yeah, so with it being Trailer Friday, I don't know. There'll be a couple Friday the 13th that we can look forward to.
It's true.
Haven't looked at the calendar
Fringe
yet.
Episodes.
Oh. If we could catch a Friday the 13th full moon.
Ooh.
We might have to do a live version of that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Whoa, that would be amazing.
Right.
Yeah, so we're on season 2, episode 3 is that's the deal. That's what's coming up. And so if you're catching the trailer, you will find out. Now, what we'd like to let everybody know, and we would gladly take feedback, is if you like the old schedule, the way we were doing it before, feel free to let us know. Otherwise, our thought behind this is we tape on Thursday, we trailer on Friday, and that gives everybody in the interwebs the opportunity to be able to take a look at it and, mark it down, get the notifications and all that stuff. And then on Sunday evening at 7 p.m., then we're working through that whole idea of people are winding down, they're getting ready for their next work week, and if they need a little giggle or laugh, then they can pull up Cut Daisies and Unicorns and be able to enjoy that.
Right.
So you'd never met Cam before.
No.
So
always heard about Cam.
Yep.
I've heard you share stories about Cam.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was the first time seeing face to face.
Yeah, I remember going to the Big Tomato one time with a bass player in the band at the time, and there was a young guy that drummed for Moose Knuckle. Do you remember Moose Knuckle in Des Moines?
Yeah, I do remember. I'm trying to place because I know
So I think where we saw Moose Knuckle together was 8035 on a side stage.
I was thinking that.
That's where Dustin in the Sunday Silos. We saw so many great local acts on, and then Dustin became the Maytags, and we saw the Maytags perform on the side stage as well.
Right.
And so with all of that going on, but anyway. The drummer for Moose Knuckle was in a Big Tomato, and we were talking about bands and stuff like that. And And I'm like, yeah, I always think about bass and drums as, just the ice or the toppings. He goes, oh, dude, the bass and drums, that's the crust. And, so in percussion. But, lots of drummers that I've seen come and go, lots of drummers that I enjoy working with, and each has their own individual personality, flair, style, feel. Bass players can become very opinionated because they have to lock in with the drummer. Yeah. And I know that our wonderful wizard, Doc Fordyce, has a great appreciation because he also was involved in the formation of this young lad. Now, I will say this about Cam. I didn't get to tell him about it personally on the episode. Yeah. But Cam is on my top 10 Old Souls list. For young people who are beyond their years in just how they feel things, how they work through things and stuff like that. And so, really, if he hadn't told you that he was 22, would you guess he was 22?
No.
Yeah.
Even just the question, that he posed is like, wow. I mean, that's kind of that's some depth there.
Oh, yeah. Well thought through. And funny thing, I can tell the intro story of when I first met Cam and his brother Jay. The gentleman that was spoken of, Ben and Stephanie, Cam and Sylvia were going to buy a house next door to Ben and Stephanie. Well, Stephanie is a potter as well. And actually, my Daisy's coffee mug was made by Stephanie Reed. And this is I believe it's a 20 or 22 ounce coffee cup. I keep it here solely for use at Cut Daisies and Unicorns. But claytandoil.com, if you want to check out Stephanie's work, she and Ben have just had their little baby. And so she's being a mama and continuing a full production studio at their place in Des Moines. Wow. And but it was at Ben and Stephanie's wedding. Mm-hmm. I was the presiding person of wedding, all things wedding ceremony-ish. Yeah. And this guy walks up to me and he goes, "So you're the myth, the legend, Steve Coble." And I'm like, I had no idea. And come to find out, my college roommate, Kevin Schneider, was the father to Jay and to Cam. Huh. But that's where I met them for the very first time. Wow. Yeah. And so
Ben
Reed.
And isn't he a musician too?
No. In the native, their bass player, when they were a band, his name was Ben.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I was thinking that. I mean, there's been other Bens, but
now Ben is currently, he loves music and has loved music for a long time. Loves to listen to music. Yeah. He's an audiophile. I mean, like this dude's mind, boom, on lock. Just with, he can spout different things and stuff like that. But he is playing Telecaster and I believe has taken guitar lessons and just self-improvement, but went down the route to become a journeyman electrician and is doing his apprenticeship right now. And so the trades, you're going to hear more about that in the episode too. So, right. All these things, good things. But yeah, it's just one of those people in my life that I have great appreciation for. Cam mentions that he's 6'2" when he stands up straight. And that's one of the things that's really like, you're not ready for his stature when he's sitting behind the drums and he's playing and he's grooving and he's just chilling and everything's going on. But he's on a throne, he's on right. That's musical terms for the seat the drummers sit on. Yeah. It's called a throne. And so anyway, but then he stands up and he's got, just this lank to him and saunter in his bit. And so anyway, yeah, I'm really glad that we were able to have him on.
Yeah, that was also something that I was like, I mean, of course you're sitting behind a screen,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, he said 6'2". I'm like, oh man, like really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could see that catching, like me off guard.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, when he gives me a hug, I mean, he's kind of stooping down to be able to wrap his old lanky arms around me and stuff. So yeah, so in this episode, we're going to cover a lot of things. Just to give everybody a heads up, we're going to talk about music waves, how it travels through the universe. We're going to talk about the importance of, if you're a parent, there's great information here on how would I get my child involved in becoming a musician or someone who plays an instrument.
Right.
The good and the bad. We have accounts on both.
We do. Yeah, and it's important. I mean, I whether or not you're saying I'm going to try to make them a musician that's going to be famous or whatever that means.
Right.
But to be able, I mean, like, I think music and having that a part of, like, I think it helps your brain.
Oh, there's no question.
Like, for sure. I mean, that's like scientific.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then what about for you, Phil? Highlights from the podcast of this episode?
I mean, I really enjoy the evolution of his thought process. When I mean, you brought up because you also know more about his story, but
Yeah.
you brought up like what happened with pandemic 2020 and how many things were jammed into that, and talked about George Floyd, and and kind of speaks to the things that we've brought up in conversation on here already.
Yeah.
But just that, like, what did it lead him to? I mean, and how fast he was, being able to put Supply Hive, which you'll learn more about, and we'll put links to all of that stuff so that you can connect with that. But, how quickly it was like, I was just doing this, and then all of a sudden found this, and then all for the sake, kind of just being able to understand, like, what was happening in the moment and what it leads you to.
Yeah.
And being able to respond, not just saying, I'm going to feel it, but then also wanting to figure out what this means and being able to put it into action.
Yeah. And for people who will hear, they may be surprised because Cam didn't out me necessarily that I was a protest attender, because you and I have talked openly about marching in the peaceful protests post. And I thought it was really good for him. It wasn't, they weren't words that shocked me, but when he said, yeah, when George Floyd was murdered. And, especially in lieu of the verdict and all these things, I mean, that's the reality. But when he said, yeah, Steve, we marched in the protest together, and I'm like, yeah, I did. But if people wanted or were interested in more of that account, they could go to 5 Minutes with Phil on Spotify and things like that. And then what they would be able to do is they would be able to check out our interview that we did mention last time we talked about it. Was, it's a 4 or 5 part, and you can grab snippets and hear the heart behind some of the things that we've been talking about at different times. And so I bring that up because Cam, mentions that. And based on where our time was and things like that, I just really didn't want to get into my perspective because we were listening to our interviewee, in regards to the formation and the different things that took place. That being said, what I will say is Cam and I had a conversation post that rally, and what I brought to him is I said, Cam, everybody's going to have their part, and there's different parts. And this plays into how you and I view that individuals have different responsibilities depending on how they're built, depending on their area of influence and things like that. And so, I just committed to helping be in an institution and helping to use words that would make change, cause people to think. And again, we come to this place. Here we are, two white guys, privileged, beards. Really, in the case of, where we are, I see a police car. I don't worry that he's going to pull me over because I'm being profiled on any level. Mm-hmm. There was a time when I would be worried because my registration wasn't paid. That's been a few years ago that when that would be, I'm like, oh, damn it. I forgot my registration tags again. Now with the beauty of technology and stuff, they send them to you in the mail, and that all works out. So it totally is. Yeah,
but there's a different level of fear, right? I mean, and that's what you're getting. Like, so even if you're pulled over for your tags being out of date, like, you're not worried about this becoming violent.
Oh, I would.
You're just like, I'm afraid of getting a ticket.
Right. And I wouldn't be afraid of an illegal search or seizure. I wouldn't be afraid of being asked to get out of the car. And if I'm going to survive from that point on, I wouldn't be afraid of being bullied by the authority in power. I wouldn't be afraid of, and the list goes on. And when people are like, well, I've got other things to do with my life. Is there anything else we can talk about? I'm like, yeah, I'll talk about stuff that doesn't matter in regards. You like to hear us talk about aliens. You like us to hear us talk about treasure. You like to hear us talk about the Knights Templar. You'd like to hear us talk about, there's like a wide variety.
Right. Well, and I think going back to the reason why we still talk about it is saying, even though, yes, we're not going to talk about the experiences because we haven't experienced it. All we can do is share the stories of the people who have experienced it, but be able to then hopefully get people who look like us to think differently, to say, all right, maybe I should pay attention to a different story that's not my own. Yeah. I mean, that's what we've been trying to, and that's our goal is to help people to be able to say, you know what, I would like to learn from somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we're saying has happened to us. We've learned from someone else that has a different experience than ours because of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
And to be able to share those stories, hopefully with somebody else who's like, oh yeah, like these people are criminals or whatever. Like you're trying to justify that. So,
and I think the other thing is that we can move into, this just popped into my head, but we want to inspire people to recognize where they're at and what their influence is and say, you can have an impact in your local community and take a look at and realize, gosh, I've got everything to be excited about. Mm-hmm. And so instead of me like digging a hole and creating this place where I can have a pity party and feel bad about, I don't even know, in regards to, there's so much that I don't have to overcome to be able to do the things that I'm passionate about and want to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm not like carrying this chip on my shoulder of, white guilt in regards to that. But when I do see myself tripping over myself, I'm able to, in a quicker way, say, come on, Charlie.
Right.
Come on. Really?
Mm-hmm.
And so what? I'm going to get all worked up about having to load the dishwasher and unload the dishwasher? You don't even have a dishwasher.
I am the dishwasher.
You are the dishwasher. Yeah. There's groups of dishes that I do just automatically because we live a very minimalist part of life in that, like, if I don't wash out the frying pan, there won't be a frying pan to use.
Next time you're cooking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like the spatula. All of the knives get individually washed. Like there's stuff that doesn't go into the dishwasher. Mm-hmm. But really, I'm going to...
Right.
Tiles coming loose in the bathroom shower. I got to worry about that? Nope, I don't, because we rent. And so we call the landlord and we say, hey, send out Miro, and have Miro come out, and which he did yesterday. Yeah. And he grouted the whole shower. You know, I'm going to get worked up about a bad day?
Right.
Come on. Mm-hmm. Come on. And so I would just put that out there to our listeners. Take a look. Maybe you've got some hurdles that you need to overcome, that you need community to be able to be a part of with you. Right. But I think we probably can jump on the bandwagon that there's a lot of us that have it super good.
For sure.
I mean, and we didn't even get to pick where we got born or what family we got born into. And I am not, I mean, I'm of German descent, but you can't tell that by looking at me.
No.
And thank God they don't make me tattoo some damn swastika on my forehead just because if they did a DNA test, I'm German. Mm-hmm. I didn't have anything to do with World War II.
Right. But to be able to, I mean, it's the same thing when we talk about slavery in America.
Right.
As far as I know, none of my family ever owned slaves. You know, does that mean then what I say is like, well, who cares about slavery because I wasn't there?
See, and that's why I brought this up. Mm-hmm. So in the opportunities when I get to interact with Jewish people, I take the opportunity to be able to say how grateful I am that they're alive, that they are survivors from a very difficult time. And, you know, just be able to see what I can learn from a different perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the goal for me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as we talked about, I mean, in multiple conversations, even going back to 5 Minutes with Phil, is that, like, we were at a place where some of the stuff that's being said today, like, we were there, and now we're not. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that, you know, that we're going to try to judge people who are still there. We're just saying, take a moment, take an opportunity to learn something that you didn't know. Because this is the things that have changed me.
Yeah.
Changed you. We've learned and we've grown from it.
Yeah.
So do the same.
Yeah. And you could say that you're not prejudiced or, you know, I'm telling you the way the human mind works, I don't believe that's the case. I think that if you just sat quietly for just a little bit and said, hey, where am I biased? Mm-hmm. Like me personally right now, I'm biased about people who drive Mercedes-Benz. I didn't go out looking for the opportunity to be irritated at people who own Mercedes. Mm-hmm. But based on actions toward me or against me or my perceived experience of what's taken place, when I see a Benz, I'm not really happy about it because I'm like, I wonder if I'm going to get flipped off, or I wonder if I'm... Now, in context, folks, the grocery store where I go to and the people who shop at that grocery store, they're seeing me walk out of the Earthen Warehouse studio, and I'm usually in dust-covered, paint-covered pants with a T-shirt and a stocking cap, and then I come into the place, and they, I get weird looks. Mm-hmm. The kids, though, think I'm ho-ho. These little kids are all like, hey, is that Santa Claus walking in?
Yeah, and I think that it is that kind of thing, right? So because you get people who are looking at you on the outside, and then they're already making a judgment of you.
Right.
Oh, he's like a common,
construction worker or somebody in a, I mean, but
in the trades.
Yeah.
Painter, whatever.
Yeah. And this is, this is North Shore, and so there's a lot of old money and a lot of affluence. And actually, when I went to my doctor, it came up. He was afraid I was lonely. If you go back to, I think it's our episode 1, season 2, when we talked about men's health. Yeah, and he's like, well, you did move into the North Shore, and everybody's interconnected, and a lot of families have known each other for a long time and stuff like that.
To break into that community.
Yeah, I'm like, well, that's all right. You'd have to want to break in to be able to break in, and I'm not being disappointed by that, and I'm quite satisfied in relationship and community of what I've had from other area codes, as well as the current in Albany Park. But anyway, it's a diatribe. Well, all I'm saying is if I can find myself looking at Mercedes-Benz and being irritated, just think about people of color. And if you have a preconceived idea, then I would just challenge you, what are we going to do to be able to move past the hurdles of our own will to move into a place? How shall we have peace if we don't have love? How will we love unless we are willing to love others as we have loved ourselves? Let's lay down how much money we're trying to make and how much power and power we're trying to have so that we can be in control. And, hey, I'm terrified of heights, but I would just say let's take the bungee jump into humanity and see how we can bounce back.
I was just thinking about, so I mean, I know we probably are going to wrap up here, but I was reading an article that Tyson was actually reading for one of his sociology classes.
Yeah.
And it was about crimes of resistance, and there was a black kid who was trying to find a job, and he went into Caro's. I don't know if you remember Caro. It's like it's kind of like a Denny's or
okay.
It's like one
Perkins,
of the, right? Perkins. And he went in there to try to find a job. And
House of Pancakes.
Right. And he went for an interview. Taller black kid, young. And he wasn't making eye contact with the interviewer. And even after they were done. And the interviewer didn't look too impressed by the whole thing anyways. And then as he walked away, he didn't offer his hand to shake. And the one guy who was helping him try to interview and get this job, he's like, well, why didn't you look them in the eye? Why didn't you offer your hand to shake? He said, well, I've been taught that black people can be intimidating to white people. And he's like, so what's been ingrained in us is that we don't want to do anything that's going to intimidate them. And it's heartbreaking for me. Like,
right.
Because I remember when I was going in for job interviews, and you were always taught, look them in the eye, shake their hand, making sure that you're engaging in that way. And for him, he's like, no, we're taught that people are afraid of us. So don't make any gestures. Don't make any move towards intimidation.
Wow.
And what did it leave the interview with? Like, oh, this interviewer's probably thinking disengaged, doesn't care, apathetic, right? That whole thing. Like, and then you just, when we're done, you just walk away. Like, no handshake, no, like, you're not going to get the job.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. Didn't get the job. Why? Because the same, all these other preconceived notions of how they're carrying themselves.
Yeah.
Like, well, So it just reminded me of that. Just keeping our perspective of saying, like, we're even looking at somebody's outward action and judging it based on our own.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I know eye contact to mean that somebody's engaging with me. I know that a handshake means that somebody wants to, engage in that kind of back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Hello, goodbye. And if they don't do that, I'm not going to, it means that they don't care.
Yeah. Not the case.
Yeah.
Understand the culture. Actually, that was one of the things that I was thinking about. I'm really looking forward to, and I have to fact check this. It was a quick read, but have you ever considered that Moses was a pharaoh?
That he was a pharaoh?
Yeah.
No.
So, in my brief research on the Knights Templar, the Moses that we would know, and this is I'll preface again. This is Western Christianity's canon of sacred text, the Bible. Okay. What we also have to recognize is that there are other canons of biblical scriptures, like the Catholic Church canonized, and it has the Maccabees, right? I mean, that's a short trip to that. The Jewish faith has the canon of its holy scriptures,
Right.
and so in thinking about that, this is the same premise as open up your mind to consider. And I think what I'm drawn into, this may help as an explanation. I think what I'm drawn into is the different views of perspective. Now, what you know about me from taking photos and from, different artscapes and things that I've been involved in, whether it's my line drawings or it could be even in pottery, like as I not only work on the wheel, but then a lot of the pieces that people are drawn to are the ones that I carve out based on perspectives and things. And so how I look at things is it's just in me and natural to move to a different point. And people are like, well, how did you see that shot? And I'm like, well, I took 3 steps over and 2 steps forward, and it's different. It's like if you have a telephone pole coming out of the back of somebody's head, you're not, I mean, the shot looks great, but they've got this, like stick coming out of their head, which is probably better than a telephone up your butt. I mean, like as far as that stuff's concerned, but different perspectives. And so when it comes to the Knights Templar, I was reading through, and they mentioned Moses as Pharaoh, and I can't really say it. It's Atke. Anyway, I wrote it down in the note. But then in my mind, I was like, why have I never considered that before, that Moses was a Pharaoh? Because he was brought in to the Pharaoh or the ruler of Egypt as a child to the princess or daughter of the Pharaoh. Well, I don't know how lineages of pharaohs go, and Egypt is a pretty big place.
Right.
So in regards to all of that, I think it just caused me to say there's a different perspective. I know what Moses is according to the Christian canon of the Bible.
Right.
But how did the world? So then, it brought me to great remorse. Because I'm pretty sure as I've been purging out my library, I threw away my copy of Josephus. Now, you probably have a copy of Josephus on your shelf.
I do.
Yeah. So Josephus is a Jewish historian and one of the only Jewish historians that actually gives an account of the Christ,
Right.
known as Jesus in human form. And so, anyway, I thought, apparently I'm going to history school right now. And I'm
Time to learn.
gonna take all this stuff in and be able to find out more about the Knights Templar. But
Doing a deep dive.
oh yeah, I was telling you, like, I mean, this is the kind of thing, for whatever reason, I'm like, well, so I'm gonna do that, but I want to pose a little teaser for Trailer Friday.
Okay. Tease it.
Have you ever heard of The Circle?
Well, there's a movie called The Circle, but I'm assuming that's probably not what you're talking about.
What's The Circle movie about?
I think it's about like social media or something.
Yeah, it's not the social media circle. No. Although it could be argued that based on the information in that, it could be led back to. So anyway, there's a secret society called the Circle.
Mm-hmm.
And its descendants continue to maintain for the Circle. Now, I've seen it in a movie, but I can't in my head figure out where it is that I watched this mini series that included that.
Yeah.
You've heard of Mossad.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of MI5, MI6.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of the CIA.
Right.
There's a theory that all of these entities
Mm-hmm.
have origins in the Circle.
Mm.
And it's these groups gathering information.
Yeah.
So the Knights Templar
Mm-hmm.
was actually an information arm.
Of the Circle.
Well, no. It moves back into these secret societies were information arms to the different churches of the state to bring back information. Well, we know, is it Einstein's theory of relativity? Mm-hmm. Like every action requires a reaction, or like every motion, like anything that you do one way is going to affect something in another way.
Right.
Yeah.
Which you get like the butterfly effect and all that other.
Yeah. So one of the things is, if you're going to go get information that other people don't want you to get, you're going to be doing things that you shouldn't be doing to other people. Mm. I need to write that down.
Right.
And so I kind of pushed away the fluff, all of the conspiracy theorists. I'm not reading those books. I'm actually reading like Harvard PhD historians on the Knights Templar. I got those two books coming. But we may chase it back to Pharaoh Moses and the Knights of the Sun, which is often discredited by Christianity because they would say that the pharaohs weren't serving the true God.
Right.
But we know that Moses was a Jew who, the princess of the pharaoh, sent Moses back to his mother to be his nurse mom, which means that he was being raised up by an Israeli woman who actually gave birth to him, even though he was placed in Pharaoh's temple or Pharaoh's court.
Family,
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could this be one of the first moves of infiltration for information? And Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go." Mm-hmm. And the interaction with, is it really such a surprise at the burning bush that deity declared to Moses, "I am that I am"? Mm-hmm. His introduction to Yahweh.
Right.
God of the Israelites. I'm sure he had been taught about the God of the Israelites, but did he know? I don't know, dude. This is where my head's going. Isn't this fun?
Right. It is fun.
Everybody's like, so is this about Christianity or not? And it's really like, I'm going to go back to the part about learning that there's so many different perspectives. We get to spend some energy looking into perspectives that we've never considered before. Mm-hmm. It's not propaganda to bump somebody off into a different way. It's to say, when's the last time you had fun discovering something? Mm-hmm. You know? So those are the things I'm thinking about.
Right. No, that's good stuff. That's a teaser right there. So
I like to tease. I like to tease. Yeah. I like to tease.
Right, because we've talked about offline about just like what makes somebody embrace a conspiracy theory over one conspiracy theory over another.
Right.
And I mean, and that goes back to psychological, but you're talking about things that are not just conspiracy, but they're history, and learning from people that are, that people have created a conspiracy with Knights Templar, with all versions of that, but to understand some of the actual history in that is good. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, spoiler alert, but if you're the persuasion that the government wants to control us, you're right. It doesn't matter who's in it.
Mm-hmm. There's a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's easier to subject people than to...
what are we going to party like? Is it
1999?
1999.
Mm-hmm. Which is when I was married, so...
Oh, wow. That was a party. All right. I was thinking of George Orwell's 1985.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it took me to the party.
Yeah.
What's going to take you to the party? Huh?
Yeah. What kind of party do we have in store?
All right, dude. Well, it's been a good day.
It's been a good day.
We had a really good... We're going to give you a doctored version of Sir Cameron, and because of the internets. Mm-hmm. And we got this trailer coming, so that'll be good too.
Right.
You know, our trailer's been on for 43 minutes. That means we have got like 30 minutes of trailer. You guys are going to get all tired of us, but we're bringing you more.
There's more and more and more.
All right, everybody. Well, hey, thank you very much for joining us. You know the drill.
That's right. Like, subscribe, do your work.
You know, sharing the event would be awesome.
Like, subscribe, and share.
Share, tell a friend. Mm-hmm. Tell a friend next to you. Tell a friend. Sing this song.
Oh, yes.
I am a unicorn. Tell a friend. And sing.
Steve's writing the the music for the podcast now.
Little bouncy ball. Boink, 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 boink. Yeah, that was bad. So I may cut it out. All right, we'll talk to you later.